Hello, Wes Morris. Matt Ferreri here again, Director of School Counseling, to talk to you today about the opportunities at the College of New Jersey. I'm joined by Mr. Matt Middleton, Associate Director of Admissions at the College of New Jersey. Matt, how are you today?
Doing great. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. Listen, I'm not going to date ourselves, but we found out that we were on campus together by a couple of years when we both went to the College of New Jersey, maybe about 5-6 years ago, right?
Yeah. We'll just say that.
Sounds good. All right. So, Matt, listen, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us about the College of New Jersey and what's new and exciting right there right now.
Yeah, sure. So again, I'm Matt Middleton. I've been in the admissions office at TCNJ now for 22 years. So I've had a chance to really see this campus and the institution evolve in a lot of different ways. I oversee a lot of facets of our admissions process. But the newer things that are happening right now that are exciting is we're really working on developing a lot of partnerships with other institutions, because we know that students are looking for ways to kind of accelerate their experiences, especially if they're thinking about long-term after their undergraduate experience. So a couple of examples are we now have a 4+3 doctoral program with Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia for students interested in physical therapy. There's another 4+4 program, similar, also with Jefferson, for pharmacy. We're also about to reveal or unveil some 3-year degree programs where students can earn their degree in one less year, and kind of accelerate that process as well. Those haven't been finalized yet, but we're kind of constantly thinking about ways to save some costs for some students. But for those students who are really driven and kind of know exactly what they want to do, and kind of be on to their next thing, we're happy to facilitate that moving forward. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, the campus is always growing in terms of facilities and construction. There's always new things that are popping up. It's been a wild 2 decades to watch this campus just change from what it looked like when we were students there.
For sure. Wow, those 4+3, 4+4 programs sound great. And for those not too familiar, Thomas Jefferson in Philadelphia, right? And Philadelphia is 45 minutes from campus, if I remember.
Yeah, we're in a great spot for a lot of that kind of stuff, because Philly's 45 minutes away, Manhattan is an hour train ride away, and anybody familiar with New Jersey knows that whole corridor between those two cities is just chock full of lots of great companies for internship opportunities and employment opportunities afterwards. So one of the real values about going to TCNJ is just we're in a great spot, for to take advantage of all those things nearby.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can certainly remember opportunities both in New York and Philadelphia in many of our classes. So Matt, the campus has changed. I know they built a new kind of town center there. But with all the changes, what's your favorite part of the campus? Is there kind of a spot that's a go-to for you?
Yeah, well, I think it's not so much even one particular spot, but I think what I like best about the campus is that it feels like a smaller private school in terms of how everything is constructed. So all the facilities look like they've been there forever, even though a lot of them are new and only opened in the last decade or so. There's a lot of green space. We have 2 lakes on our campus that students like to just hang out and relax outside. So when you walk across the campus, you have this very collegial sort of feel. And then in terms of a specific facility on campus, I mean, our library, and again, as an alum, you remember the old library, which was fine, but not great. The new library is really tremendous. And one of the things I like about it is that there's a lot of these small gathering spaces in the library for students to do group projects together and study sessions together. And the library has, not to sound too nerdy, but the library has kind of become the main hub on our campus. That's where students congregate. That's where students get together. There's a cafe in the library, so it's also a good social spot. But yeah, I think of all the buildings, that's probably my favorite place to be right now.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the culture on campus there. Kind of what are some of the fun things to do? What do kids get involved with?
Yeah, I mean, because in the admissions process, we put a lot of value on extracurricular involvement. It's a very engaged campus in terms of activities. There's over 200 clubs. There's a really robust Division III sports program, especially for women. We really have what's generally regarded as the best D3 women's program in the nation if you take all the sports together. So it's a really, a lot of things that get involved in athletically. It's also a really, I think, evolving school for art, music, and theater. We've got some really great organizations that students are getting more and more involved in. So even though most of the students are from New Jersey and live within, typically a 90-minute radius of the campus, they don't go home. They stay. They want to be engaged. They're active with activities and things to do. So it's not a suitcase school. It's not like a typical state school where everybody just kind of flees on the weekends and heads back home. They want to be involved here. And so that's one of the things I like about being a staff member is that when I walk across the campus, I'm always seeing different, like for example, the other day, there was this giant manhunt game going on in the quad, in the middle of the day on a random Tuesday. But that was just, that organization was doing something. So you see a lot of that on our campus, which is exciting.
No, very, very cool. This is never a bad time to play manhunt, I guess.
Exactly.
and your athletic facilities are exceptional there. The soccer field and the softball field certainly stand in my mind as two great gems on the campus. One of my joys about going to different college campuses and talking to different reps is learning kind of about the quirky, unique traditions that are on a college campus. Does TCNJ have one that you can share?
We sure do. So right out in the middle of our science complex, we've got these 3 buildings that form our science complex on one corner of the campus, and there's a fountain in the middle of that. And so the tradition is that all of our first-year students, when they come to TCNJ, they have a welcome week program. It's 5 days where they're the only people on campus. It's right before classes start. It's meant to just get them acclimated to the campus environment. And what a lot of the first-year floors, residential floors, do is during welcome week, they will all go to the fountain and jump in at some point during those 5 days. And then it is a very common tradition then for that same group of students to get together at graduation or during the week before graduation, jump back in the fountain again. And so that's, you kind of start in the fountain, end in the fountain. That's the big tradition at the moment.
Very nice. That's cool. That's cool. So look, what is TCNJ known for, right? If I'm a student and I want to major in blank, I should go to TCNJ. What major is that?
Really, I think we're probably best known for teaching. We've always had a really phenomenal education program. And so we get a lot of students who are like, the minute they say education, this is the first school that pops in their head. But really that program is on the smaller side compared to some of our other majors. Our biggest major really right now is biology. So we become much more well known for the sciences, partly because of things like the science complex and the fact that we have newer facilities. We're also really well known for business because of the internship opportunities and being close to the cities. Nursing has become our most competitive major for admission. Students do 500 clinical hours while they're here, so they're getting a lot of hands-on experience. But really anything in like the science and engineering area has really grown popular because unlike most state schools, we don't have our students competing with a lot of graduate or doctoral students, no doctoral students, very few graduate students here. So when students want to get their hands dirty and do research and work closely with faculty members, they get to do that as an undergrad here. So what we're discovering is that for a student who maybe can't afford to go to a $65,000 or $70,000 a year private school, but doesn't want the trappings of those larger state universities where there'll be lots of opportunities, but they're mostly going to be reserved for the grad students or the PhD candidates, they kind of get the best of both worlds here. And that's why those programs are just getting more and more popular.
Wow. Great. So look, your expertise is obviously in admissions, not necessarily financial aid, but I will ask the question. We hear sticker price versus actual price often when talking about college.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the financial at TCNJ?
Yeah. So if a student is living on campus, the total cost of attendance is about $33,000 for the year. If they're commuting, it's closer to $19,000. Very few students pay that because we have merit scholarships that students are considered for when they apply to the school. They don't need to do anything extra. We just look at them automatically. We have need-based aid. As a state school, it's just the FAFSA form like it is for most state institutions. And then we actually have a third pool of money that we in our office call hybrid money, but it's basically a need-based scholarship. So if you qualify for a scholarship and you also qualify for a certain level of need, we can kind of tack on some extra funds that are kind of connected to both. So yeah, most students are paying, closer to the 20-25 range when you start to add all those things. Then obviously some students are paying significantly less depending on how much need they might have as a family.
For sure. Where's TCNJ right now with standardized test scores after COVID?
Yeah, so we are still currently test optional. That's for this senior year class. That's on the books. It's guaranteed. We haven't formally announced what we're going to do for next year, but I can't imagine us going back to requiring test scores. I think we'll always be optional. Just hasn't been formally announced yet by the college. And for us, what optional means is if a student is really proud of their scores and they want to send them in, great. We'll think of them as a little bonus point in their application. Mm-hmm. But if you didn't take the tests or if you're not particularly proud of your scores, we don't care at all. Like we did not use them as part of our evaluation process one iota over these last couple of years. And it's been great because we've been able to really bring in, I think, some really fantastic students who maybe in past years in the pre-COVID era might have gotten shortchanged by their test scores. So for us, it's, you did great, sure, tell us, but don't sweat it otherwise because we're not going to worry about it. The only exception to that rule for us is we have a 7-year accelerated medical program like a lot of schools in New Jersey have with NJMS up at Rutgers. That program does require one or the other, the SAT or the ACT. Okay. Everything else, optional.
And optional for consideration and merit scholarship as well?
Correct.
Okay, great. So what type of student do you typically accept?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're certainly looking for someone who's challenged themselves academically in the classroom. Most of our admitted students are typically in the, top 20 to 30% of their class. They usually have, that A-ish average and up with some honors or AP level courses. And we get that, certain schools like yours are competitive and we factor that into the equation. And then, we're looking for that involvement, piece, especially if the student's got any kind of leadership or service. We'll ask for a couple recommendations. We ask for the essay, but the one piece that's continuing to become more and more important for us is interest. And we are paying a lot of attention now when students are visiting the campus, doing virtual programming, meeting us at college fairs, even things just as like they're emailing us or texting us or calling us. That has become really, really valuable for us because we have limited seats. And so we would much rather take a student who seems excited about TCNJ than someone who the first time we've ever heard from them is when they submit the Common App. So for us, we really pay a lot of attention. And I will say, when you're working with your students, if we ever reach out to a student and say, hey, can you tell us a little bit more about this? It's totally optional. It's optional, but like if you really want to go to TCNJ, it's not optional for you. Like you should be filling it out. We do those things during the cycle sometimes because we just want to see who's truly interested versus those who have kind of decided that we're not worth the trouble.
That's a great piece of advice. And we're always telling our students, check your emails, check your portals, right? And
have to.
And every single day, especially when it's in application season, because you may get that email.
Yeah.
When they say optional, okay, but get back to them.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I mean, and decide, at least if you're seeing it, you can decide for yourself what you want to do and what you don't want to do. You don't want to be that student who's calling us in April saying, I can't believe I got waitlisted. Why not? I love the school. And it's like, well, you never visited and you never filled out the little optional form we gave you. So we just assumed you weren't interested. That's all, we can only go by what they give us. So that's why it's good for them to be keeping track of that stuff.
Yeah, makes complete sense. You had mentioned, West Morris is a competitive school. We're an IB World school, right? We have the diploma program, career-related program. How does IB factor way into the admissions process there?
Yeah, I mean, we love IB courses. When to me and to our staff, we think of that as the cream of the crop. Like if you're taking an IB level curriculum, it doesn't get better than that. Whether they go for the diploma or not is not really that important for us for the admissions process, but just seeing those courses, knowing the amount of work the students are doing for those, to me, someone who's successful in that kind of curriculum is going to flourish here, because we have the same kind of, again, it's the research, it's the extra things you're doing outside the classroom that makes IB special. That's what makes, I think, our program special too.
Yeah, it's good to hear. So talk to us a little bit about, the application process. You had mentioned, you're looking at involvement, you're looking at leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the essay. So obviously that carries some significant weight for you. So I guess two things. One, what advice would you give students about the essay in particular? And two, how can a student make themselves stand out in the application process when you're reviewing thousands of applications?
Sure. I think the best advice I can give with the essay is to just make sure it is about yourself. You'd be shocked how many students write essays about teachers who have influenced them or grandparents who have had an impact on them. And I'll turn to one of my colleagues after reading these essays and be like, wow, I totally wish I could admit this grandparent to the school because they seem incredible. It's a missed opportunity. If the student doesn't use that essay to brag about themselves a little bit and really just kind of explain why a college would be lucky to have you on their campus. They don't need to be, I know students get hung up on sometimes. I'm like, I need to have this amazing opening sentence or they're not going to read it, or I need to have this hook. And I mean, I can't speak for all colleges, but like I read every single thing that a student sends, recommendations, essay, additional information, whatever it is. I don't need to be wowed. But I would love to learn something that I couldn't find out from other pieces of the application. So whatever that is for a particular student, that's what they really need to focus on. So yeah, in terms of standing out, I mean, really for me, that's where the interest piece comes in. To me, a student who is truly excited and has made an effort to connect with us in different ways is automatically moving to the top of the pile before I've looked at anything else, because that's getting me excited and wanting me to find reasons to admit them, which, I mean, in admissions, the reality is that's what I'm doing anyway. I'm looking for reasons to accept students. But the ones that kind of rise to the forefront are those students who are engaging with us and staying connected and things like that.
No, I'm glad you said that. I tell that to students and parents all the time, and I'm sometimes not sure they believe me.
Right.
Because I'm looking for reasons to accept, not to deny. Like you want the kids to come.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's very important for them to hear. So I appreciate you saying that.
Sure.
You already mentioned that demonstrated interest is very important for you guys.
Yeah.
So get to campus, talk to somebody on campus, right? Mm-hmm. Be in communication. We spoke about the essay. We've spoken about test scores.
Yeah.
So I guess, what advice would you give a student? And this could be a high school student at any level, right? Whether they're just starting the search process or they're ready to hit submit on their application. What advice would you give to a student and in those stages there?
Yeah, I mean, the best advice for the early starters is just to start asking yourself critical questions about what kind of college experience you want. I think that, and these can be good dinner table conversations with parents, but really try to grasp, like, do I want big or small? Do I want to go far or be close? And really think logically about what that means for you. I think a lot of times students think, oh, I want to go as far away from as possible. But they don't realize that, hey, I'm not going to be able to go home until Christmas break. And, they need to really get a concept in their heads of what they're really going to be comfortable with. And then go see a couple campuses, even if it's not for a formal tour. You're driving by one on the way home from something, just pop out and walk around it. I'm a big believer in trusting your gut with this search process. And that's true whether you're in 9th grade or 12th grade. Like, if you walk around a campus and you're not feeling it in those first 15 minutes, don't bother applying. Like, it's not worth it. I mean, there's a reason you're not getting that feeling. And that's kind of my advice for the seniors too, as they're finalizing their applications and ultimately making their decisions. Like, at the end of the day, there's two things that I tell every student they need to think about when they research the schools. What's the school's retention rate and what's their 4-year graduation rate? Because at the end of the day, you want to be someplace where most of the people are happy and not leaving, and you don't want to be there any longer than you absolutely have to. And those seem like such obvious things, but I'm sure you've experienced this, right? some families just do not think about that stuff. And they, a school might have a great reputation or good name recognition, but if a school's retention rate is in the 60s, most students are not happy there, right? There's something missing. There's a disconnect. And I think one of the things that I love about being at TCNJ is that we get a group of students that have done their homework, that genuinely know what they're getting into. They don't think it's a perfect school. They're not going with blinders on. Like, they know what they're getting, and so when they're here, they're satisfied, and it's meeting their needs. So at the end of the day, that's what I want for all the students who apply. Like, if TCNJ is the right fit for them, awesome. If it's not, find whatever that fit is. That's what I want them to do. So they're not dropping out, they're not transferring, or having to stick around for an extra semester.
Yeah. Look, no perfect school, right? Just a school that's right for you.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately the goal. So listen, you brought it up. What is the retention rate and what is the 4-year graduation rate?
And I love those stats partly because we have good ones. So our retention rate is currently 92%, which is actually a little bit lower than it normally is for us. I think COVID has had some impacts on that for a lot of colleges. But for a state school, that's one of the highest in the country. Our 4-year graduation rate is 76%. That's the 5th best in the country for a public school. The only schools with better 4-year graduation rates than us right now are William & Mary, UNC Chapel Hill, University of Michigan at Ann Arbor, and California, Berkeley. That's it. And then TCNJ's 5th. So that's really great company to be with. As an alum, I'm sure that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
That's some really top level stuff, and we're on that list because I think we do a really good job, again, of giving students some really cool experiences while they're undergrads, but being very conscious of cost and making sure they're not wasting their time while they're here either. So
yeah, no, those are very impressive. And look, I don't know where 92% ranks, but I'll say this to the folks that are watching: you're going to have trouble finding a number much higher than that anywhere you look. So
there's not a lot of colleges on that list in the 90s. So we're happy that we're doing something right. That's kind of how I feel like it's summarized.
Hey, they jumped in the fountain the first week. They want to jump in at graduation. So they got
exactly in 4 years, not
in 4
not
years.
5 years.
All right. Hey, Matt, really appreciate you taking the time today to tell our students and families about TCNJ. I'm sure we're going to have quite a few of them on campus looking around in the coming months. So look forward to continue working with you.
My pleasure. Yeah. And if any students have any questions, you have my contact information. Feel free to share with anyone. Happy to help out.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sure. Have a great school year, everybody. Take care.